Hello guys and welcome back. I'm Tash and today go grab a snack because do I ever have a lot to say about this. Okay? Today we're going to be talking about Netflix's The Perfect Neighbor, which dives into the murder of Ajike Owens, or AJ. Everyone called her AJ. AJ was a devoted mom of four. She had four children, and she was a head manager at McDonald's, and she would do anything for her kids. She literally died for her children, okay? This is so sad. This is even crazy that it came to this, honestly. Like, it's gonna be crazy. All right, buckle up, guys. So, her sons played football and her daughters were in cheer, and she was known as like the team mom. One of the moms said that I don't have time to take my kid to football, and she said, "Oh, I'll take your kid. I'll sign them up. I'll take them. Don't worry about it." Okay, so on February 25th, 2022, the Marin County Sheriff's Office would get a call, a 911 call from a Susan Lorenzic, okay? And this was not the first call they would get from her. They arrived to her house, and she says, the children, they were trespassing. This is unacceptable, she says. I literally had to call 911 because the children were playing. They were screaming, they were yelling, they were having fun. And so the police officer's kind of like, what? Like, what do you mean? And this footage in this documentary is made up of mostly police cam footage. So I would say about 90% is police cam, and the other like 5 to 9% is ring camera footage, and then the rest is like photos and maybe I don't think it shows any interviews, but it has a few photos as well. And so I'll show you right here what the layout of the house is. So basically, Susan lives in this complex here to the left, and it's a 4-person complex with 2, and she's on the side that's underneath the tree. And as you can see, this empty field here is where these kids play. And you can see the yards are small. Like, there's not much yard here in anybody's yard to play. So you can understand why all the kids go to the grass. They play football, kickball, hide and seek, they walk the dog, whatever. Like, they're allowed to play outside. There comes a day when AJ throws this sign. It's like a little no trespassing sign with metal stakes. And it's not very big at all. It's literally a little piece of cardboard. And she throws the sign at the ground. She admits to this. And Susan says she threw it at me and she hit me. And so whenever there's times Susan will say she previously attacked me, this is what she's referring to, is a time when AJ threw a sign at the ground. And so she'll refer to this as the previous attack. Okay. So she threw the sign, didn't hit her, whatever. Everyone in the neighborhood had a problem with Susan. Anyone who has kids, okay? She's constantly yelling at the kids, and all these kids are doing is just playing outside, having fun. And she's screaming at them and kind of has gotten to it with like all the moms around. So another call comes in August 10th, 2022. And at this point, it's 2 cops. One goes to the actual property owner, mind you, Susan does not own this property, okay? She owns where the fence, just like the like complex includes the fence. Like, she has no yard, you know what I mean? And she goes, I'm going to send a cease and desist at this point. They shouldn't even be screaming around anyway. This is what Susan is saying. And the property owner is not complaining. So the cops can't do anything. They're like, well, you don't actually own this. So the cops are fed up with her. Like, after the second call, well, the second call that they're showing, we don't know if there's calls between that they're not showing. And so the apartment 3 owner, he's the guy that owns the like little bit of land that's next to the field or next to the complex. And he put up the no trespassing signs. And he says, that's the only thing I can do is my line. And I don't care that these children are playing, you know what I mean? Another call comes in December 22nd, 2022. And the police come and they're like, oh, what's the problem? Just lots of foolish children screaming their heads off. Ma'am, is this why you're really calling 911? Like, you live in, this is, I don't think I mentioned, this all happens in Florida, okay? Florida. So, mind you, the man who owns the property lets the children play, and the cop goes to AJ, and she's like, honestly, we aren't touching her truck. We aren't doing anything. We're not going on her property. And one day, I told all the kids, I said, come over here. And we sat here, and we were not even anywhere close, and the alarm just went off. So clearly, she's pressing the button from inside. And she did this every 6 minutes. Literally, AJ saying. So, like, what is this lady's problem? And at this point, an interviewee says that Susan got an air horn and she would just blow it. And then one night or one day, whenever, she just revved her engine so hard that this witness thought she had hit one of the children. The witness literally thought she hit a children just by the sounds of it. And so, the next call that the police get is not from her. It is about her. It is from a random guy who owns this gated property. I think it's like lot, I guess, where you just keep cars. I don't know. So he has footage of her truck repeatedly ramming his fence from the inside. And the cops are like, oh, we know this girl. She just lives around the corner. So they go to her house and they bang on the door. And oddly, they don't announce herself, which I would be mad about that. But they bang on the door once, twice, and then the third time they bang again, and she screams, like literally at the top of her lungs. She's like, 1 minute. And the cop, like, geez, he like backs up, you know what I mean? And as soon as she's like, who is it? And then he's like, police, blah, 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 county police. What county is this again? Marion County Police. And she instantly changes her tone. So she talks differently to police than she does to anyone else. And he opens the door and she's like, what do you want? And he's like, oh, well, we have footage of your truck, blah, 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 blah. And she denies it. She's like, no, I was home all day, blah, blah, blah. She's like, I went out because I had a flat, that's it. And he's like, well, you have the right to remain silent, blah, blah. Do you still wish to speak to me? No. And the cop's like, oh, okay. And he's like about to leave. And then she's like, well, no, I'm sorry, I panicked. And she like goes into like this like defensive mode, I guess. And she's like, she literally says, the guy locked me in there. And then she changed her, she's like freaking, she changed her tune. She said, listen, and she puts her hand on her heart and she goes, I've been previously raped and beaten. And I panicked. I thought he was going to harm me in there. And the cop's kind of like, okay, well, he wants someone to pay for his fence. It's severely damaged. Well, my truck is severely damaged, she goes. As if he did it to your truck. Like, you did this, ma'am. And so this is the end of that interview, or interview interaction, I guess. And you hear the neighbor who's the witness, you hear her talking. And this is when she talks about the language that Susan uses towards these children. She calls them the F word, she calls them the B word. But most insanely, she calls them the N word. She calls them slaves. She's even heard yelling, "This is not your underground railroad." This, who you can see is a white lady, is yelling this at these black children, okay? Children ages 8 to 12, okay? And this is when I was just baffled. Like, I think this is built on something a little more than annoyance at these children having fun, right? Next call from Susan to the police comes in April 25th, 2023. And they come and they're like, "What's the problem, man?" And she explains, "Oh, the children are trespassing. He wants to put his dog in my truck. Not acceptable." You called 911 because of that? You called 911 because the kid's trying to put his dog in your bed of your truck? First of all, it shows the dog earlier. Like, it showed the dog at the very first call in February 2022. I think it's like a black golden doodle. It's already big at that point. There's no way. Anyway, so the cop says to the other cop, "Did you tell her that there doesn't need to be a call every time these children are playing on the road or in the yard?" And one of the cops like, "Oh, well, I guess they're..." He goes on to list stuff that she has never said they done. So I'm like, this guy just made that up. This cop just made that up. I swear this cop just made that up. Because not even Susan says they like knock and run. Like, he's like, "Oh, I guess they knock and run," which Susan has never said that. You'd think she would. She would say that at one point to the police, right? She doesn't ever say that. This cop just makes this stuff up. And then the other cop's like, "Well, you're going to have to get used to the fact that you live around a bunch of children." And then, so on May 22nd, 2023, she arrives at the police station. And she's like, "I called 911 last night and nobody arrived. I guess the mom interfered with the police and my calling of 911. And they're like, "We're sorry. Like, we showed up and there was no like evidence of any damage being done, so we didn't go to your door." And she's like angry. She's like, "Well, they threw a burnt sign at me." And he's like, "There's no proof, so nothing can be done. Sorry." Like, and then we come to June 2nd, 2023. This is where everything begins. So you hear a kid say, 2 days before this is when Susan flashed her gun at us. And like, he kind of laughs about it. He's like, "We're all like, run." And they run. They all run away because this white lady has a gun and these black children are playing in the street. They run in fear of their lives. So June 2nd, 2023, this is what an eyewitness is explaining. This is what the kid explains. He says, "She threw a roller skate at me and it's believed to have hit his toe, I believe, or maybe it was the tablet. They were playing, they left, and they come back because they forgot their tablet. And she has the tablet and the roller skates. And she throws the tablet and the roller skates, and either the tablet or the roller skate hit him in the toe. So then the cops told them earlier, if anything happens, go get your mom. Okay, this is what the cop told him to do, like a normal child would do if an adult is yelling at them, okay? So he's like, Mom, she has her tablet or whatever. And this is when the first 911 call comes in, is from Susan saying, these kids are threatening me. I'm scared for my life. And at this point, you hear Susan, she's in the house, or you don't hear Susan, you know she's in the house. She describes being in the house, and you hear AJ, and she bangs on the door. She bangs 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and she says, come out here. You cannot talk to my children that way. And within that time frame, they hear bang, and there's a gunshot. And then you hear the kid scream, call 911, call 911. So the 8-year-old kid was at the door with the mom while the mom got shot through the locked metal door, okay? The 8-year-old kid runs, call 911, call 911. You see ring footage of him running to the neighbor's house. The Karen shot my mom. She shot my mom. And then, like, the neighbor's like, are you kidding me? Like, oh my God, they freak out. And they're, at this point, 4 different 911 calls come in. Someone's been shot, someone's been shot. And you hear all these 911 calls come in. I think someone's been shot. Oh, this lady's been shot. The killer's in the house, blah, blah, blah. Then a 911 call comes in from Susan. She's just calling to alert the police. I shot. She's not calling to say, oh, there's a girl dying outside. She's just calling to let them know I shot. And she says, I thought she was going to kill me. I thought she was going to kill me. And that's all she says on this 911 call. And I think they tell her to stay in the house. The cops arrive, and they're doing all the CPR. And this poor child just witnessed his mom die in front of him, be murdered in front of him. And he has to tell the cop everything that happens. And he says, she threw the skate at me. I went to go get my mom. We come back, and my mom banged on the door and said, come out here, come out here. And she shot, and I ran. That's the whole story. That's what the kid has to say. It is just so heartbreaking. So then the police call the father of the children. Can you get here? There's an emergency. Your children need you. Then it comes through from the cops that went to the hospital that the mom does not survive. So she for sure didn't survive her injuries. And the cops tell the father. And at that moment, the father says, I have to be the one to tell the children. So you see footage of the cops, from the cops, of the father telling these 4 children that their mom didn't make it. And this is just when I lost it here. Oh my God, it hurts just talking about it. They're crying, oh my God, it's awful. And then the dad calls AJ's mom. And she's crying, and he's like, there's nothing we can do. And that is like the most like heart-wrenching footage you'll ever see, you know what I mean? So that was June 2nd. We're on June 3rd at this point, and this is Susan's interrogation. That doesn't show the full interrogation, obviously. I watched it on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. Susan Lorenzic, full interrogation. Lawrence, I don't know her name. Full interrogation on YouTube. So she repeatedly says, I was genuinely scared for my life. I thought she was going to kill me. And this goes on, I think it's about a little over 2 hours. She gets let go. She's free. She's out in the world. She's walking around free. She goes and buys a hotel room. And then another thing she says is the cops are asking, what was the purpose of you shooting the gun? And she says, I was trying to scare her away. I was trying to go away. And she's talking so calm. It's terrifying. Like, she genuinely believes she was in the right. So her getting let go free, this leads to peaceful protest in the street. No justice, no peace. And all her family and other people from the community are in the streets chanting. And I would be right there with them because this is insane. One of them says, the cops is saying, oh, we have to do our investigation, blah, blah, blah. One of them says, if this was one of us, y'all would have us locked up, okay, while you're doing the investigation. So, June 4th, Susan goes home to her house with the police, and here we discover that there's been a break-in. She comes with her mom, her sister, and the police, and her nephew, what seems like 4 to 6 year old nephew. And this is when the nephew says, guns are bad, in his little 4-year-old voice. She's like complaining, oh, they got my dishes, like whoever broke into her house, like broke her dishes or whatever. And then June 5th, mind you, the neighbors are all yelling when she's here. That's why she had to come with the cops, because like she knows she's not safe. All these neighbors would obviously like freak out. And so she comes with the cops again on June 5th. And this is when a cop goes to one of the neighbors and says, listen, can you make my life a little easy here? And I would have reacted exactly the same. Make your life easier? She's yelling, make your life easier? Oh my God. Oh. And he walks away. He's like, at this point, like, I'm sure he's shaking his head, like, why would I even say that? Like, and so there's another girl, another cop, and him, and this is from her point of view, and he says, oh, you out? Like, talking about the footage. And then she's like, yeah, obviously, like, and he instantly right there turns his camera on. So God knows what we missed there, right? I love how they showed that in the documentary. Like, of course this guy forgot to turn his body cam footage on. Like, oh, whatever. So then, June 6, 2023. This is the next interview with Susan Lorenzik, whatever her name is, Susan. And this happens at 8:30 p.m. This is when the cops break down. The first 911 call happened at 8:54 p.m. to 8:59 p.m. Lasted 5 minutes, okay? We told you stay there and let us know if anything changes. Between this time, after this, is when AJ arrived at your house. Bangs door, 123, 123, boom. The next 911 call that you called and said, I shot, happened at 9:01 p.m. So let me remind you, the last call hung up at 8:59. 9:01. So that is less than 2-minute window, less than 120 seconds that she thought this girl was gonna kill her, that she needed to shoot, okay? And she repeatedly says, it felt much, much longer than me. I really, really felt she was gonna kill me. And Susan is convinced that she was yelling, I'm gonna kill you, okay? No other eyewitnesses said that. No other eyewitnesses heard that. Ear witnesses, whatever. No one else heard that. So this is in her head, okay? And she believes that there was about 2 to 5 minutes from when she was yelling, and then about 10 minutes when she went and got her gun and shot. This is what she thought. She also thought that AJ was saying, I'm going to kill you. It was less than 120 seconds. And she literally said, come out here. I want to talk to you because you do not talk to my children that way. Okay? So this is the point when the cops tell her, you can write an apology to these children who no longer have a mom, okay? 4 children who are now motherless and are gonna grow up without a mom and haven't even lived a quarter of their life. So she writes, they leave her pen and paper. She writes, I'm gonna read you this in a minute, but they come back and the cop goes, all right, so you're gonna come with me and you are under arrest. And she literally looks at the cop, she says, no. The way I laughed out loud, okay? And every time the cop's like, all right, you're gonna go with this deputy here? No. She's like, I'm gonna book you, I'm gonna take your fingerprint. No. She's like, I can't do this. And I could not believe this here. I went back and I counted how many times she either said no or I can't do this, okay? 31 times she either said no or I can't do this. I can't. And let me tell you, this is white privilege at its finest, okay? Its finest. Because if that were me sitting in there, if I told a cop no 1, maybe 2 times, then there's a point where the cop, he's like, there's 2 cops there, and he's like, all right, we're gonna book you, we're gonna handcuff you. And he goes to reach over, she goes, don't touch me. And she's like this, she's like, ouch, maybe I don't need to hold a pencil. She's like, hold on, she's like, no, don't touch me. I literally laughed at this out loud, okay? I didn't comment on the white privilege throughout the whole documentary. The amount of times she called 911 for absolutely nothing and didn't get in trouble, or the white privilege there, didn't comment. But the moment that the cop went to detain her, she said, don't touch me. He didn't pull out no force. He didn't reach for his weapon. Nothing. This was insane to me. Eventually, she does get up. And she does put her hands behind her back. Okay? But at a point, they're like, what are you going to do? Sit here all day? She goes, I don't care. Kill me. You mean to tell me that 2 days ago, you just in fear for your life, that you had to kill someone else? But now, you're willing to be killed because you don't want to get up and go to the prison. Like, I have no words. That's blown. And so she eventually does get up and go, but that was just hilarious to me. Like that, this is real life, okay? This is real life. And so court comes, that was June 6th, 2023. Okay, so court comes August 2024, and not much of this gets shown in the documentary, but I went back, I watched as much as I could of this court case. I'm going to show you a picture of her here before she went to jail. I'm going to show you a picture of her here at her court date. Okay? And this is what 18 months in prison does to you when you are Susan Lorenz. Okay, so in court, this is not in the documentary, but it comes out that she had both a 22 and a 308, okay? So she had, so basically a 208 is just bigger and does more damage. It's like a wider bullet, not that wide obviously, but like 22 is the little baby, and then, I don't know. Anyway, so it comes out that she has 2 guns. The 22 was on top of the 308. So she had to move the 22 and chose to take longer, that much longer, when she was in fear of her life, to get the 308. You know what I mean? Like, she chose to go out of her way to get the 308. So there is a jury of 6. And I would like to mention that all of the jury members were white. And listen, we're in Florida. This is a very diverse state. We could find some people of color, okay? I don't know. I don't like that. And she did get found guilty of manslaughter with a firearm. So there's multiple levels of manslaughter. So say if you were fighting with someone and you just intended to beat them up and they died, that would be just manslaughter. But then say if you had, say if you were drunk driving, that would be manslaughter with under neglect or something along that line. Like, there's a bunch of different levels, you know what I mean? So this is specifically manslaughter with a firearm, which I don't like this. And I think if there were maybe more people of color on the jury, it would be probably a higher, maybe first degree. Who knows? Maybe it was planned. Who knows? Another thing, I don't think this is in the documentary as well. She did turn down a plea offer. So she could have got lesser time if she pled guilty. So she pled not guilty, and she was guilty of manslaughter. But she was convinced she was under the stand your ground law. And she refused to plead guilty. So then 3 months later from that, we're in November 2024, she gets sentenced. She gets sentenced to 25 years. And listen, this lady is, I think she is 60, she's 61 now. She was like 57 at the time. And is she gonna make it 25 years? I don't know. I still think she should have got longer. Because this is just... And then there's a couple other things that also weren't in the documentary that I wanted to mention. That she bought this gun after that first incident in February of 2022 when AJ supposedly threw the sign at her. Okay? That's when she bought the gun. She has no permit for the gun, and she admits that she's taken it to a range 3 or 4 times. So she was looking to get her permit, I guess. And in the interrogation, the cop specifically asked her, have you ever been diagnosed with bipolar, schizophrenia, like anything? Like, because low-key, this isn't normal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not normal. And she literally says no. So, she's not mentally ill. Like, what? I don't know what to say. It also came out that Susan did have cameras, but they didn't work, apparently. And so, that pencil staying on the ground. And so she would film them with her phone, the kids playing outside, trespassing. And like, even like she has like some film pictures of the kids where they're like posing, they're, you know what I mean? Like, they're like, hey Karan, like, you know what I mean? Anyway, so there's this wrongful death conviction. Actually, I don't think it's fully got convicted yet, but the family are suing the county for a wrongful death. Wrongful death. Y'all know what I mean. This happened in July 2025. And the family do have this fund. It's called the Standing in the Gap Fund. So basically, aside from helping the children out, like they're like play football and cheer and stuff, and they have no mother, this fund is also helping to try to repel the stand your ground law, because this law has gotten many of Black people killed, and specifically a majority people of color. So it just seems like it's a little, And then finally, they have a GoFundMe for the children. But that's it. That's all I have for you about this case. I think it's important to keep AJ's story going, because I believe the family is trying to pursue a higher sentence, or a higher, they want it to be murder. They don't want it to be manslaughter. So they have to get lawyers and stuff for that. So basically that's what the GoFundMe's for. And it's crazy that I didn't hear about this case before the Netflix documentary, right? I follow a lot of true crime, and it's constantly popping up, oh my God, especially US stuff, you know what I mean? Especially Florida, right? Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you so much. Again, stay safe and stay blessed.